Hello, my name is Jeff Jamilo, and this is Why Videos. There's actually a reason why I'm doing this, actually, is because the Lord put it upon me to describe what I do and why I'm doing it. But I need to provide a little bit of context. No one really knows why I'm doing this, but we'll start the process now. About a year and a half ago, I got a tarot reading. Well, actually, I got 3 tarot readings. Two love readings and one general reading. And in the general reading, the person was reading my cards and she was reading something else. And what came down the wire was public speaking. I need to get more familiar with public speaking. I'm like, public speaking? What are you talking about? What? Like, what kind of crazy thing is this? I'm a software developer. I'm like, oh, we don't talk much to anybody. No, I talk to my dog, other coworkers, and that's about it. So there's not a lot of talking in software. So I got to thinking, I go, okay, well, just whatever. I threw that in the back of my head, back on the shelf. About a couple weeks later, I started to get more, YouTube things of, you should tell your story. I'm like, oh, tell my story. Like, okay, I got to thinking. I go, well, it's not unheard of. And I go, what's really actually funny is a couple years ago, I'd say about 10 years ago, my stepdaughters asked me what happened between me and my wife. And I literally I spent an entire weekend, and I actually wrote down everything that went on from the day we met to the day we parted. Every event that has happened. Because the kids were around for a little while and then they weren't. So no one really knows what happened. And to my understanding, there might have been some mental health issues with mommy that no one knew about. So basically, I wrote it all down. I gave it to her. And after 2 days, pondering it, the only response really I got was, yeah, I thought so. That's because my middle daughter actually does work in this healthcare profession. So she probably sees it. And actually, I think if I remember correctly, she lived with her for a while. So she saw, firsthand almost everything that's there. She was just wondering if this is new or is it old. So that's kind of how that one worked. I go, so a lot of it was already in place. So I go, okay, well, there's still some resistance there. I kind of said, yeah, eventually I'll get to it. And then it kind of nagged me some more about, what about this public speaking thing is crazy. Where did this come from? So I got to digging some more, and I'm thinking, I go, where does it doesn't just fall from the sky. And I go, well, I had a vision board years ago. I'm talking maybe 8 years ago or so. And on the vision board, I put everything I wanted. And one of them was a picture of somebody on stage talking to a crowd of people, maybe 100 people. And my intent at the time when I put that on there is to tell people my story and help them, to help other people. But in more of a public setting versus a one-on-one setting. Okay, maybe. And then literally, I sat there and I thought, I don't know, it just seems like there's more than that. Because where did that come from, And now I'm digging through my triggers here at this point, because where did it come from? And then I thought way back to the 90s. I just got out of the military, and my brother was in college, at the local college. I borrowed his car, so I was returning it. And we used to meet at the library, so, I can give him the car. And literally, when I was waiting there, a young lady went over and saw me, squinted like she knew me, maybe I know her, I don't know. I don't know, because I wasn't a very popular kid, so I was like, okay, whatever. So as she came over, she goes, Jeff? I'm like, oh, damn. And the first thing that popped in my head is, I have no clue who this person is at all. She kind of looks familiar, maybe. I didn't date anyone. So I found, it's Rachel. Her name was Rachel, and her friend was Diane. Oh, and we got to talking, and she's kind of like, oh, I haven't seen you since, high school. She hasn't seen me since high school. And I go, and it's before high school, actually, it was middle school. Because high school, they both went to a different high school. Because that was this breaking point for the schools. If you lived in one area, you went this way. One area, you went to this school. So that's where the breaking of the schools was, and I went to it was in a different area, so a different school. So regardless, we went down that path, and we got talking for about 10, 15 minutes. Found out that, Diane, the friend, was in love with me and was mad at me and used to growl like a dog. Because I used to growl like a dog with her, because I was a child. That's what we do. We mimic things. So I was not very nice to her, kind of thing, and she was madly in love with me. And Rachel told me this, and it's like, okay, and basically she also said that I said something to her that changed her life. I'm like, I got to thinking real quick, it's like, what did I tell her? Because I used to joke around all the time. What I talk about? That was actually even before my geeky tech side of the fence. So that was like, I don't know what I was talking about. But then, she kind of hinted at, something that changed her life. Like, okay, well, okay. And what's odd about it is that kind of put into motion the idea in my head. And the idea in my head is very simple. It is, people are listening to you. As creepy as that sounds, people are listening to you. So when you talk about aliens, you talk about, military, you talk about war, you talk about the government, whatever you're talking about. People are listening to you. So be careful what you say. You want to steer them along the wrong way. Now I know it's bad because it's a karma thing, but didn't know back then. But realistically, it's like, okay, well, that's kind of bizarre. But then again, I thought about it and I go, well, maybe not. Because, I got to thinking a little more. Like, wow. I go, when I was in the military and I was on ship, or when I was done ship, you got 6 months on ship, you're floating around, the Atlantic, heading toward the Mediterranean. And I did it for 18 months. So it's like 3 tours, 6 months each. And you kind of want to stop and just go think. And so you go, at night, you go open up one of the doors outside and watch the waves. You can't see much, it's dark. But the moon, reflecting off of it is pretty good. And you'll sit there and chill out for 2 or 3 hours. But a lot of times there's other people there, and you kind of get to talking about, problems. People have problems. Kids have problems, all kinds of things. You get to talk about different things. So you change different points of view. And you realize, yeah, I do talk to a lot of people. I don't really realize it. But I also realize that I don't really give advice. I know why. I've learned recently that if you give advice, you are taking accountability for them. But if instead I say, this is what I would do, given the circumstances that you just described, this is what I would do. And that means it's up to you whether you listen to me or not. So I don't get any karma when you don't listen. Because a lot of times, people don't really want an opinion. They want an affirming opinion, which means they just want you, to agree with whatever crazy thing they want to do. And if you disagree, they dismiss you immediately. Oddly enough, I met a couple developers that are that way too. So it's just kind of even weirder when you get into development, you see that stuff. So I'm a software developer, by the way. What else I normally tell people is I tell them what I tried, what worked, and what didn't work. And what's really interesting is I don't know what to make of that, because from another person picking it up, that means I'm human. I tried things. Maybe I'm going to rattle off things that they never thought of even trying, maybe. Or what may work for them, what may not. I don't know. It's very odd, because when you think about it, you think one thing would always work. It doesn't. So I do have a habit of doing that, telling people what I've done. Here it is. I tried this, and this is my result. So I didn't do that anymore, or I did this instead. So basically, I'm actually explaining my thinking. in that process. And that's not a horrible thing, actually, because as you go through and explain your thinking, people start understanding your thinking and kind of adopt some of it or all of it or whatever it may be. It just, there's a piece of it. It changes their thinking because their thinking is different. I'm not saying their thinking is wrong or right. It's for some reason changes their thinking. But what I did notice with Rachel, when I was talking with Rachel, is it was kind of a game of connect the dots. She heard from someone else later something similar to what I said. So she tried what the person said. And then all the dots connected, and she immediately went over and did the other things that I've said. Because now I'm connected to this, to something that worked. And then it's just, boom, off it went. So to her, it's like, wow, I know a lot of stuff. Like, okay. So it seems kind of odd, but is it really all that odd? But at this time, I'd like to actually explain my process a little bit. It's not a real complicated animal. I'm homeless in a car, so not much of a process I can do right now. My process is very simple. I wake up, and usually I'm inspired by something. I got some idea that pops in my head. Maybe one, maybe two. Let's just say it's a title. And I walk around with the dog. Oh, let's go walk around the same route we do every day, and or other routes, wherever the dog takes me. And we usually walk, and I think of like, okay, well, this is the title, boom, boom, like today, live video, And then I sit there and say, okay, well, I think I have enough meat for that. Then when I get back to the car, I pull out my, quote, Christmas cards. Oddly enough, they were actually in the trash. They were throwing them out from last year, like 3 boxes of them, like almost 30 of them. I opened up the boxes, cut them in half, and I got a pencil, and now I got paper. So every day I go and I write it down, and I literally write down the title and my points that I want to get to. Now, whether I follow them is another story, but my process is literally I go over and I write them down. If I need definitions, I write the definitions down in a separate piece usually. And I write them down. And then I go over and talk about them like I do now. Sometimes it doesn't always work out all that well. As you can tell, I'll kind of stumble, and then either I'll recover, which we move on, or I don't, which I go, stop, restart all again. And I do it up to 3 times. If after 3 times it's not right, it's just deleted. Sometimes I'll delete it after twice, and then before I go to upload it, I'm like, I don't like it. I still don't like it, and I don't know how to rework it. And I just take the card, I just throw it out. It's burnt until it comes back in my head again. So that is kind of my process, and there's actually a reason why I'm telling you why the process is what it is. Because a lot of people will look like it and say, oh, that's amateur hour. You're right. But let me go to the next topic. What is God trying to do here? Well, God is trying to prove to people that they're not perfect. This is not scripted. I do not script. And the reason I don't script is because ultimately, on public speaking, there is no scripting. It's usually off the cuff. And how you recover from things is just as important. And so it's less important to be, professional in that regard than it is to be authentic. I'll stumble on my words. I'm not perfect. I am not perfect. And it tells other people that want to get into this that they should. That you don't have to be perfect to do this. You don't have to sit there with a script that says, when I did my story, I had to read from a script because it was horribly complicated. I found it very difficult to do. But I also had a lot of information to provide. That's literally, I said, 2 hours worth of information. That's a long time. It's not 20 minutes scripted, half scripted. But it's to prove that you're not perfect. No one's perfect. And God doesn't want anyone to be perfect. But it's part of the journey. You'll learn. You'll learn how to adapt and do things. The second thing that I was thinking about is actually showing others how to do this. It's not complicated, not real complicated. I'm homeless in a car. How complicated is it? I talk about something I know. And I said, if it's wrong, I'll get indications that to delete it. It's not right. Or redo it. It's not right. I said there's a couple topics that 3 strikes you're out, is gone, because it's just not right, which could mean that it's not ready yet. God keeps reminding me it's not about editing or anything like that. It's about the message. Not really the presentation of it, just the message. So when you think about it, when you're judging this, just remember that it's a tool to show others of, hey, here's how I've grown. Here's how you could grow. It's a baseline. But you got to start somewhere. How's it go? You got to try. You got to try. Largely, that is my process. It's not a complicated process. It shouldn't be. I have a sneaking suspicion that God wants a lot of people to talk. A lot of people to talk. I said, for me, I sat there and I thought, but I had to really dig back to when, public speaking, that's like, I'm a shy child. So I was like, okay, how did that come about? I said, shy and I'm a loner. So it's like, what do I have to offer the world? Well, it seems a lot. Just on the loner part, actually, it's quite a bit, because people don't understand how to be independent anymore. That's a problem. And actually, people don't know how to cope and adapt anymore either. People use a lot of substances for that, when you pretty much just need to heal a little bit. You need to figure out what went wrong. That's really all this is. Healing is nothing more than acknowledging that this happened, and you're not going to let it affect you anymore. In other words, you're actually recognizing that, yeah, this did affect me, and here's how. And you just keep digging to find out what the root cause of all this is. You keep going. That's one thing that I do. I'm very glad that I know how to do, and that is dig through the root cause of everything. The easiest system for that is what triggers me, is just basically what triggered me to do that. Okay, that bothered me. Now, what triggered me to do that? And you just keep going down a rabbit hole until you find out what originally back yonder in your youth triggered you. And accept it and move on. So once you start doing that, your life changes a lot. You get more authentic, because you don't have to worry about any of this stuff. It doesn't help that I'm authentic. I'm an authentic person. As much as I ramble on tangents, that's part of the allure too. Think about it. No one ever really thought those were all related, or I related them all. I go, but the fact remains is even those tangents are important to somebody. It may trigger someone in a good way to change, to do something different. We don't always know what the universe has at play for us, and no different here. My spirit team puts words in my mouth. I feel like if you watch any tarot reading, you'll still sit there and they'll say random words sometimes. And it's like, why are they saying these random words? Well, spirit guides told them to say it. No difference. I think anything you consume is like that. It's like anything you go watch. If you go over and you walk by a newspaper rack and you see a newspaper headline, or you walk by and hear someone speak next to you, and they say something, if you happen to hear it, there's probably a reason why you need to hear it. So, we're back to why videos, because that's what the Lord wanted. The original ones were in a podcast type of format, but there was some concerns about me being alive, oddly enough, and what I look like. Because some people with identity theft impersonating me. So I figured, hey, here I am. Why not? So that stops the copycats from doing whatever they are, because I am who I am. I'd like to thank you for listening. Hopefully this helped somebody. As I said, it doesn't have to be necessarily always be a complicated process. It's the process. I'm sure in the future it'll be fine-tuned a little more here and there. But for right now, this is the process. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.